President,
Senator from Illinois.
I ask consent to speak as if in morning business.
Without objection.
I ask that first that the quorum call be suspended. Consent.
So ordered.
And to speak as if in morning business. Madam President, the budget the President released Monday includes more than $1 trillion in deficit reduction, and two-thirds of it come from spending cuts. That puts the nation on the path toward fiscal sustainability. But it also reflects the urgency to invest now in programs that will pay off for a long time. Investing in transportation and infrastructure, I think, is the best way to ensure economic recovery now and economic growth well into the future. Now, it's been 2 years since the President signed into law the American Recovery and Restoration Act. The investments made in infrastructure over 2 years have either saved or created over 1 million jobs all across the nation. In the first year alone, that Recovery Act led to 350,000 direct on-project jobs. Direct job creation from these projects has resulted in payroll expenditures of over $4 billion. Using this data, the House Transportation Committee calculates that $717 million in unemployment checks have been avoided as a result of this direct job creation. Now, in his State of the Union address, President Obama challenged us to start rebuilding our infrastructure for the 21st century. Our aging network of roads and rails were built for a long time past. Our infrastructure used to be the best, but let's be honest, America's lost its lead. Mongolia has a more advanced air traffic control system than America. South Korea has faster and easier access to the Internet than America. Europe and China have high-speed rail systems far more advanced than America. Dozens of commissions, academics, groups, the smartest people in America have all come to the same conclusion. Our infrastructure is old, and we need to invest in fixing it. We have to reduce the debt and deficit. I was a member of the Deficit Commission. I understand it as well as anyone. But the American people don't want us to do this at the expense of critical infrastructure that will be needed to grow our economy. Unfortunately, the House Republicans currently are in a debate on the floor of the House proposing that we cut off our investments in transportation right in the middle of the year, right before the construction season. House Republicans are debating that this week. Their plan cuts billions in funding for roads, rail, and mass transit. It's going to cost us over 300,000 private sector jobs. Let me repeat that. 300,000 private sector jobs, not government jobs. 300,000 jobs in the private sector. Can we afford that? Let me give you some examples of what the House Republican budget cuts. They cut the money for the Clean Water State Revolving Loan Fund, over $1 billion of it. That provides low-interest and no-interest loans to our local communities to help them build and make safe wastewater and drinking water. Most communities can't afford to do this on their own without raising property taxes through the roof, and EPA's funding is vital if these projects are going to get done. This cut alone by the House Republicans would result in 454 fewer sewer projects, 214 fewer clean water projects across America, and it would cost us over 33,000 jobs. There was a program called the Tiger Grants. Mayors know all about it, because what President Obama said is we're going to cut out the middleman. We're not going through the state capitals and the State Department of Transportation. If a mayor comes to us with a good idea of a transportation project right at the local level, we're going to send that money directly in a Tiger Grant. So what did the House Republicans decide to do? They took $1.1 billion from that program. That, unfortunately, would eliminate all funding for this program this year, cutting off this construction season. $500 million worth of investment in our nation's infrastructure. Worse, it rescinds $600 million for projects that have already been awarded. The Department of Transportation announced these projects last year. Now the House Republicans want to cut them off. Communities in 40 states across the country have been planning for these funds for up to 75 projects, which would be absolutely abolished by the House Republican action. The House proposal will literally take away funding promised for these projects, stopping work. Cutting $1.1 billion from Tiger programs will put more than 30,000 private sector workers out of work in America. And then they want to cut $7.1 billion for high-speed and intercity passenger rail grants. I know all about that because, Madam President, as you know, that route from St. Louis to Chicago on Amtrak is one of the prime areas for high-speed rail in America. The Republican proposal would completely eliminate it, stop it cold. Worse, they would rescind more than $6 billion for projects already awarded funding. They'd take away funding from 54 projects in 23 states across the country. The U.S. Department of Transportation tells us that cutting $7.1 billion from high-speed rail will put more than 200,000 private sector jobs at risk. At a time when we should be creating jobs and building the economy and building the infrastructure for even more jobs to follow, the House Republicans have decided to start cutting jobs in America. As the Speaker said when asked about it, whether or not he was concerned about the loss of jobs from the House Republican cuts, he said, so be it. I'm sorry, but the Speaker's missed the obvious message from the American people. They want us to create jobs, preserve jobs right here in America. Killing jobs in the U.S. House of Representatives was not the mission that anyone was sent on in the last election. Compare that cutting with the President's budget. The President understands we've got to invest in infrastructure. The unemployment rate in the construction industry, private sector industry, is over 20%. Construction costs at this moment are low, and local governments are moving forward where they can on projects because they're saving money. Just at the same time, the House Republicans want to stop construction in America on these important projects. We need to make these investments in infrastructure. The President's budget calls for a 6-year, $556 billion reauthorization of national transportation systems. He front-loads this 6-year bill with a $50 billion of investments in fiscal year 12. This will help us get the biggest bang for the buck. He creates an infrastructure bank, $5 billion set aside to provide credit assistance and loans to attract private investment into public infrastructure. The President's investing $8.3 billion in high-speed rail. He wants to bring that high-speed rail to 80% of the American population within 25 years. This is the first step in a long-term infrastructure investment by our country while the President still freezes spending, domestic discretionary spending to a lower level than it was under President Eisenhower in the 1950s. We can invest in infrastructure in a way that's fiscally responsible and will lead to stronger economic growth long into the future. The House is proposing slashing investments in transportation and infrastructure. That'll cost us jobs. That'll stop us from the economic recovery that we desperately need. We need to enact a balanced plan, cut spending, reduce the deficit, but remember that education, innovation, and infrastructure are critical if America is going to continue to be competitive in the 21st century. Madam President, I ask consent that the following statement be placed in a separate part in the record.
Without objection, so ordered.
Madam President, employers in several states, including Illinois, are facing an automatic tax increase if the Congress doesn't do something. That's right. Businesses that are struggling in this recession face a federal tax coming their way if we don't act. I'm introducing a bill today that would prevent that. This is a time when we need to help businesses, small businesses in particular, to spend every dime they have on hiring people looking for work. Here's why I'm introducing the bill. Current law requires states that have overdrawn their unemployment insurance trust fund to raise taxes on employers to fill that deficit. The recession put tens of millions of Americans out of work, and the number of people who've been unable to find new work for more than 6 months is unprecedented in recent history. Unemployment insurance has helped these families through a difficult time, and it's been a good investment. It's money that, when given to the unemployed, is quickly spent back into the economy, creating demands for goods and services. The Congressional Budget Office ranks unemployment benefit payments as one of the most stimulative things that we can do to turn this economy around. So we know that it's good economics. That spending is going to help drive up demand for what private companies sell, which encourages them to hire more workers. But the ferocity of the economic downturn has strained the unemployment insurance trust fund in many states. Let me be clear, this problem has nothing to do with the operating deficits many states are facing. That's a bigger but unrelated problem. The UI Trust Fund can only be used by states to pay unemployment insurance, and it's these trust funds that we need to return to solvency. That's what the Unemployment Insurance Solvency Act, which I've introduced, would do. Here's what it specifically sets out to accomplish. First, it would waive the requirement that states immediately charge local employers higher taxes for the next 2 years. This would save companies located in my state of Illinois, for example, over $300 million over the next 2 years and save businesses nationwide between $8 billion and $11 billion between now and the end of 2013. Second, it would waive the interest payments that states would otherwise be required to pay for the next 2 years. That's going to save Illinois $200 million in interest payments over the next 2 years. And finally, it would give states, governors, state legislatures, local employers working together greater flexibility in figuring out how to replenish their unemployment insurance trust fund starting in 2014. It would give states options, 3 options to explore. First, restructure their UI tax base and rates to fill any hole in the trust fund. Second, seek forgiveness from the federal government for a portion of the debts the states might owe to its trust fund in return for entering into a long-term solvency plan with the Department of Labor. Or third, maintain existing solvency that a state has already achieved, earning higher federal UI interest payments and lower federal UI taxes for the employers. The President included a version of this proposal in his budget that he submitted to Congress on Monday. I commend him for it. With 13.9 million people out of work, $14 trillion in federal debt, we need to find creative solutions to solve problems facing workers and employers. This bill that I've introduced, co-sponsored by Senator Jack Reed of Rhode Island and Senator Sherrod Brown of Ohio, is one that I think addresses this issue in a proper manner. It removes this new burden on small businesses, a tax burden which can only hold them back from hiring the people that they need and reducing unemployment. And it gives to states that are hard-pressed because of other financial problems at least 2 years where they don't need to pay the interest that they owe on the money borrowed for unemployment insurance. It is a stopgap emergency measure supported by the Obama administration, which I've been happy to introduce. This bill will prevent an immediate tax increase on employers. It ensures unemployment insurance will be there when workers need it, and it does not raise the federal debt. I urge my colleagues to support it. Madam President, I suggest the absence of a quorum.
The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Akaka. Mr. Alexander.
Senators are currently in a quorum call. They're working on the FAA reauthorization bill. That bill that would advance modernization of the nation's air traffic control system moved a step closer to passage today. Earlier, the Senate approved a compromise to increase flights between the West Coast and Reagan National Airport in Northern Virginia. It's just across the Potomac from Washington, D.C. That agreement would allow up to 16 additional daily round-trip flights between Reagan National and Western states.
Madam President?
The senator from West Virginia is recognized, and we're in a quorum call.
Ask unanimous consent to order the quorum call. be
Without
rescinded.
objections, ordered.
I ask unanimous consent the Senate resume consideration of the McCain Amendment number 4 and proceed to a vote in relation to the McCain Amendment, that being number 4. Upon disposition of the McCain Amendment, the Senate resume consideration of the Paul Amendment number 18. There be 4 minutes equally divided prior to a vote in relation to the Paul Amendment number 18. That no amendments be in order to the amendments prior to the votes, and the motions to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate.
Is there objection? Without objection, so ordered. The McCain Amendment is now the pending question. The yeas and nays were previously ordered. The clerk will call the roll. Senator from Texas.
I ask for the ayes and nays.
I move to table.
I ask for the ayes and nays.
Is there a sufficient second?
So is it?
Yes, you're fine.
It's okay.
There appears to be a sufficient second, and the clerk will call the roll on the motion to table.
Mr. Akaka, Mr. Alexander, Ms. Ayotte, Mr. Barrasso, Mr. Baucus, Mr. Begich, Mr. Bennett, Mr. Bingaman, Mr. Blumenthal, Mr. Blunt, Mr. Bozeman, Mrs. Boxer, Mr. Brown of Massachusetts, Mr. Brown of Ohio, Mr. Burr, Ms. Cantwell, Mr. Cardin, Mr. Carper, Mr. Casey, Mr. Chambliss, Mr. Coates, Mr. Coburn, Mr. Cochran, Ms. Collins, Mr. Conrad, Mr. Coons, Mr. Corker, Mr. Cornyn, Mr. Crapo, Mr. Dement, Mr. Durbin, Mr. Ensign, Mr. Enzi, Mrs. Feinstein, Mr. Franken, Mrs. Gillibrand, Mr. Graham, Mr. Grassley, Mrs. Hagan, Mr. Harkin, Mr. Hatch, Mr. Hoven, Mrs. Hutchison. Mr. Inhofe. Mr. Inouye. Mr. Isaacson. Mr. Johans. Mr. Johnson of Wisconsin. Mr. Johnson of South Dakota. Mr. Kerry. Mr. Kirk. Ms. Klobuchar. Mr. Cole. Mr. Kyle. Ms. Landrieu. Mr. Lautenberg. Mr. Leahy. Mr. Lee. Mr. Levin. Mr. Lieberman. Mr. Lugar. Mr. Manchin. Mr. McCain. Mrs. McCaskill. Mr. McConnell. Mr. Menendez. Mr. Merkley. Ms. Mikulski. Mr. Moran. Ms. Murkowski. Mrs. Murray. Mr. Nelson of Nebraska. Mr. Nelson of Florida. Mr. Paul. Mr. Portman. Mr. Pryor. Mr. Reed of Rhode Island. Mr. Reed of Nevada. Mr. Risch. Mr. Roberts. Mr. Rockefeller, Mr. Rubio, Mr. Sanders, Mr. Schumer, Mr. Sessions, Mrs. Shaheen, Mr. Shelby, Ms. Snow, Ms. Stabenow, Mr. Tester, Mr. Thune, Mr. Toomey, Mr. Udall of Colorado, Mr. Udall of New Mexico, Mr. Vitter, Mr. Warner, Mr. Webb, Mr. Whitehouse, Mr. Wicker, Mr. Wyden, Mr. Paul, no. Senators voting in the affirmative: Brown of Massachusetts, Hutchison, and Rockefeller. Senators voting in the negative: Burr and Paul. Ms. Klobuchar, aye. Ms. Ayotte, no. Mrs. Murray. Mrs. Murray, aye. Mrs. McCaskill. Mrs. McCaskill, aye. Mr. Roberts. Mr. Roberts. Aye. Mr. Leahy. Aye. Mr. McCain. Mr. McCain, no. Mr. Bennett. Mr. Bennett, aye. Mr. Tester. Mr. Tester, aye. Ms. Cantwell, aye. Mr. Lee. Mr. Lee, no. Mr. Blumenthal. Mr. Blumenthal, aye. Warner. Mr. Warner, aye. Mr. Moran. Mr. Moran, aye. Mr. Inouye, aye. Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson of South Dakota, aye. Mr. Franken. Mr. Franken, aye. Mr. Nelson. Mr. Nelson of Nebraska, aye. Mr. Dement. Mr. Dement, no. Mr. Johnson of Wisconsin, no. Mr. Cole. Mr. Cole, no. Mr. Coates. Mr. Coates, no. Mr. Johans. Mr. Johans, aye. Mr. Coburn. Mr. Coburn, aye. Mr. Wyden. Mr. Wyden, aye. Mr. Coburn, no. Mr. Casey. Mr. Casey, aye. Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown of Ohio, aye. Mr. Portman. Mr. Portman, no. Mr. Hoven. Mr. Hoven, aye.